I miss old Monolith. They made some of the best first-person shooters of all time, and then made some disappointing sequels. Enough time has passed to where we're starting to see some games heavily inspired by those old Monolith titles. The most obvious is Fear. We have games like Trepang and Sulaco. But in comes 3D Realms making a game heavily inspired by Blood, which is pretty funny in hindsight. I mean, Blood spent most of its time living in Doom and Duke Nukem's Shadow, and now 3D Realms is being inspired by Blood. How the tables turn. Okay, 3D Realms is just the publisher, but my point stands. This game is Cultic, and it feels pretty different from the other 90s retro boomer shooters, and I'm really enjoying it. Hey, Jarek the Gaming Dragon here. While it's still somewhat relevant, a couple of weeks ago, I brought up a point. We have a term for old 90s shooters. We call them boomer shooters. We also have a term for games that are heavily inspired by Half-Life. We call them Half-Likes. But we don't really have a term for fear clones, if you will. So I asked my followers on Twitter, what should we call these? They're not boomer shooters and they're not really Half-Likes. And I immediately got a response I really liked. Someone recommended Woo Shooter. If you aren't aware, Fear was heavily inspired by John Woo films. Those films are commonly described as gun fu. Crazy particle effects all over the place, everything's blowing up, lots of action happening. Once you see one of these films, the inspiration is really obvious. So yeah, I really like this name. Woo Shooter just makes sense. And it's not just me. Some of the devs that are actively making games just like this chimed in and said, yeah, that name works perfectly. Although the person that suggested this was not so happy.
Emotional, damn it!
Which is different than me because I've been pretty happy lately. I found out that they opened a very good mountain bike park pretty close to me, and the shirts I've been wearing when I go to those mountain bike parks are from IntoTheAM. I've been partnering with IntoTheAM for quite a while now, and it really isn't just for show. These shirts are very soft and incredibly comfortable. I mean, hell, if it's flexible enough for me to be mountain biking in it, I'm sure it's flexible enough for you to just walk around town going shopping or whatever you want to do. In fact, the path I'm on here is the easy path. The one in the middle I can clear perfectly fine, but the far path I completely ate shit on. Got a lot of bruises from that. Shirt was completely caked in dust. You know, I picked myself up, I washed the shirt off, and it looks brand new. There's no rips or tears or anything like it. So yeah, these shirts are pretty durable. IntoTheAM also has a sale going on right now from June 16th to June 20th. It's a summer style sale. 20% to 50% off on selected products. Most of these are graphic tees, graphic tank tops, and a few outerwear products. And of course, if you go to my link intotheam.com/dragonshirts, you get 10% off site-wide. I really couldn't recommend these shirts enough. That's why I endorse them as much as I do. Huge thanks goes to IntoTheAM, and let's talk about Cultic. Okay, so a disclaimer. I got early access to this demo, but by the time you watch this video, this demo will already be out. In fact, it will have come out on the 13th, so this week, Monday. The full game is not out. This is just a demo. Despite that, I really like what I've seen. This game does not play like your typical boomer shooter. I feel most people just combine movement shooter and boomer shooter like they're synonymous. This game is a bit slower, but I don't say that in a negative way. The gunplay still feels punchy, the movement doesn't feel bad, and it's very atmospheric. Graphically, it's also interesting. It's like it's a 3D game trying to look like an old pixelated game. It's using sprites for your weapons and enemies, but the worlds are clearly still 3D. And yeah, the art style of this game is very reminiscent to that of the original Blood, which I'm totally down with. Although this demo has a few problems that may or may not have been fixed by the time you play this game. For example, if I put it to full screen, it defaults to 1080. I don't have a 1080p monitor, I have a 1440p monitor. Kind of annoying. Putting it to borderless window fixes the problem though, so not that big of an issue. The bigger issue is changing your controls. It just doesn't work. Like there's a menu where you can change your controls, but none of them stick. They just stay default controls. And some of these default controls are really whack. Like your dodge is left alt, not undoable, but who puts dodge to left alt? So I just forgot I even had it for my first 2 playthroughs. More egregiously, the lighter is way over at L. This is a problem because that's basically your flashlight, and if you're holding a lighter, you can only use select weapons, mainly your hatchet and pistol. So you want to be able to put away your lighter quickly so that you can use, say, your shotgun, which requires you to move all the way across the keyboard and press L. Again, this is a demo, it's not a done game, so it really doesn't matter. I guarantee you these bugs will be fixed. Again, they'll probably be fixed by the time you get to play this demo. What's more important is that the options are there. And they are, including an FOV slider. But yeah, I really do just love how this game blends sort of old and new. As I mentioned, this is clearly a 3D engine, but if you just looked at it at a glance, you wouldn't think that. It also feels like a 3D engine, something that would have come out in, say, 2004. You know what I mean by that. There's a very distinct feel between, say, the Doom engine and, say, Half-Life 2. You can even see your full body, just at all times, and not just when you're sliding or kicking people. So I guess that's a good segue into the movement. While this is not a movement shooter, you do still have some options. You unfortunately cannot jump out of your slide, so you can't launch yourself across the entire map, but you can basically just cancel your slide into another slide, which gives you a lot of speed. And there's virtually no cooldown on the dash if you remember that you have it. Again, this is clearly not ultra kill or something like that, but you do have those options. Something that does annoy me though is that you can't cancel certain animations, or at least it doesn't have an input buffer to realize I'm trying to change my weapon. Something about this feels really weird and unresponsive. I think that's something they need to look into. I'm not saying cancel your slide and turn it into a movement shooter, it's just something along the lines of, if I'm reloading, I want to consistently swap weapons when I press swap weapon. What this means is that this game is going to feel a little slower than your typical retro 90s shooter. And again, I'm 100% down with this. I think I tweeted a few days ago something along the lines of, slow isn't bad, we need more games like say The Darkness 1. Generally when a game tries to be slower, it's an intentional choice. They generally want the gunplay to be more impactful, and more importantly, they want the game to be more atmospheric. And oh boy, this game is certainly doing that. Now this is the demo, so we don't really get a full picture of the story, but I think we get enough. The game opens with you investigating some murder cases in the 60s. Well, as you park your car, that guy shows up. The next thing you know, you're waking up in a mass grave. Production value of this opening cutscene is fantastic, and although it doesn't tell you too much, obviously this is what you need to know, and it sets up the game nicely. Yeah, you're dealing with a really messed up cult. The next thing you know, you got your trusty C96 and you're trying to survive. The maps are linear, but they're not too linear. You usually have multiple ways to go, and you can go at your own pace. These maps are also littered with secrets. This first demo will only take you maybe 30 minutes to beat, but there's 11 secrets in this demo. I only found 6 of them. I'm really bad at finding secrets. Some of them are as simple as just throwing dynamite and blowing out a wall. Other ones require you to just climb through a vent if you happen to look that way. Or maybe there's something as simple as just breaking out a window and then finding a shotgun. Needless to say, you're going to want to scour these maps to try to find all the secrets, because these secrets really do carry some good stuff. Again, that was the first time I was able to find the shotgun. Before that, I just had a C96. One of the other secrets gave me a weapon part. And like I said, these maps have different branching paths, so the first time I played through this demo, I didn't even notice this. Not just the weapon part, but the upgrade station. There's a workbench where you can upgrade your guns. At the time, all I had was a C96, so I didn't have much to upgrade, but I went ahead and tried it out. The upgrade I got was to make the C96 burst. Ended up pretty useful. I don't know what upgrades the other weapons have, but I assume all of them will have upgrades of some sort. And while we're talking about the guns, I really want to emphasize these things feel nice. They feel like they have a huge impact on the targets you're shooting. Headshots are gonna make ridiculous fountains of blood, it just feels great. Please don't take those words out of context. Something that also makes this game kind of feel more like an early 2000s shooter is the ability to just chuck whatever you want anywhere. I mainly use this to throw explosive barrels, and to also throw these lanterns which will light everyone on fire. With those fire effects, I think it makes it even more apparent that this game is heavily inspired by blood. But that's what you'll be doing for the first half of this demo, following this road, taking out cult members as you go by them. But then the demo suddenly changes in tone. It was already somewhat messed up, but now it's gone full slasher vibe. You're holding out this lighter, it's completely dark, you have things hanging from the ceiling. Every time you break open a barrel, there's blood and eyeballs and body parts. Eventually you find this letter. Oh boy, here we go. If you haven't figured it out, this is not your typical boomer shooter that's supposed to be a power trip. This is more like a slasher film. And while I'm not a huge fan of slasher films, I greatly enjoy games that aren't just power trips. Again, slow can be great when the dev does it right, and this game definitely did it right. But there's more than just this one level in the demo. There's also a survival mode. Now, the survival mode only has one level, but it's still there. In the survival mode, you will find enemies that you won't see anywhere in the demo. In fact, quite a few of them. You also get guns that you'll never get in the demo. At least I assume. I didn't find all the secrets, so maybe some are hidden in the secrets, who knows. You get a lever action. A submachine gun. And a grenade launcher. This grenade launcher is a China Lake. I really like it. I'm really appreciating that demos are starting to add survival modes, because it really lets you go ham and figure out the combat and just see if you'll really like the game or not. It's a lot more replayable than a 30-minute slice of what the final game will be. With that all said, if you can't tell, I really like what Cultic is doing. This game feels different, it looks different, it's more immersive than other games I've played of its genre. I'm already giving it, I think, too much praise for just a demo, but it's definitely on my radar and I want to play it when it launches. But I think that's all I have to say. Again, I want to give a huge thanks to IntoTheAM for sponsoring this video. Check out their summer style sale, 20% to 50% off on selected products. Also check that link down below, IntoTheAM.com/dragonshirts, to get 10% off site-wide. And of course, thank all of you for watching this video.